Jada Pinkett Smith recalls devastating moment Suge Knight delivered her Tupac's ashes. Jada Pinkett Smith is still making the rounds to promote her new book, and in a new conversation, she opened up about the time Suge Knight brought some of Tupac's ashes to her in the wake of his death.
Having to receive Pac's ashes in that way was a really devastating moment to just get him in this little cardboard box.
She explained.
And yeah, I was very rageful about the whole thing.
Right, that he's sort of cavalier about how he delivered it.
He was.
When asked if Suge's energy made her believe he was behind Tupac's murder, Jada chose not to pass judgment.
One thing I've learned, not to make assumptions.
She responded,
Lord knows so many assumptions have been made about me of what people think they know front-facing, and there's always more to the story, so I can't make assumptions.
Growing up in Baltimore, Pinkett Smith talked about dealing drugs at the age of 14, while also attending the Baltimore School for the Arts. Multiple worlds at one time. "I'm used to that," said Pinkett Smith, adding that she learned how to be in all kinds of environments from her grandmother. In 1986, she met rapper Tupac Shakur at school. Pac was new. "It was my sophomore year, and he looked over and he saw me and he just targeted me," Pinkett Smith said, then added her first impression of Shakur was that he was charismatic and had a beautiful smile. Jada Pinkett Smith is diving deeper into her past relationships. After revealing that she and husband Will Smith have been living completely separate lives since 2016, Pinkett Smith talked to Rolling Out about her friendship with the late rapper Tupac Shakur. Pinkett Smith was asked about Shakur, who died after being gunned down in 1996, being her soulmate. She agreed and discussed their strong connection.
One of the most difficult things that you had to write about in this book was losing your friend, your soulmate, Tupac Shakur.
On the internet, there's been a whole lot about me calling Pac my soulmate. And I think people regard soulmate just in a romantic way. And soulmates aren't just romantic, right? Because as you read in the book, Pac and I were not romantic, but he is a soulmate. I know I will see him again.
After dropping out of college, Pinkett Smith headed to Los Angeles and landed parts on TV shows like Doogie Howser, MD, and 21 Jump Street, before producer Debbie Allen cast her as a series regular in The Cosby Show spin-off, A Different World. While auditioning for a role on The Fresh Prince of Bel-Air, Pinkett Smith met the show's star, Will Smith. "I was like, oh, he's hanging out here, fishing, you know what I mean? Seeing all the pretty girls coming out the audition room. And I was like, don't talk to me unless you try and get me a role," she said of her first impression of him. Although it would be until 3 years later, in 1994, that they would start talking, her mother didn't approve of the relationship as Smith was married to Sherry Zampino, with whom he had a son. At the time, the Oscars slap.
That I think would give people a lot more context to understand that moment. Let me also say that I know that was a difficult moment to watch because of history that Chris and I had in regards to the 2016 Oscar So White. And I'll let people read to get up to speed on that. But when I first saw Chris' name come up as one of the presenters, I said, oh boy. I looked to Will and I was like, he's not gonna be able to help himself. This is gonna be something. I was like, I already knew. And I was like, okay. So Will had been going back and forth backstage all night. So when Chris said what he said, I looked to Will as if to say, see, I knew it, right? And then I was like, oh boy, that's not cool to talk about a medical condition that people, there's nothing you can, it's not something that can be cured, right? And that
Pinkett Smith said she was really worried for Will, who later won an Oscar that night for his role in King Richard. Jada Pinkett Smith is once again recounting details from her intimate friendship with Tupac Shakur. The set-it-off actor has often regaled the public with stories of her longtime bond with the late rapper. This week, after confirming that she has been separated from actor Will Smith since 2016, she's going even further, calling Shakur, who died in 1996, her soulmate. Shakur was sentenced in 1995 to 1.5 to 4.5 years in prison for sexually abusing a fan and served a portion of his time at Rikers Island in New York. Pinkett Smith recalled to Showtime that he was in bad shape and having to leave him there after visiting was painful.
So
A lot of people might not know, but he proposed to you while he was in jail.
I talk about this in the book when I go to see him in Rikers, when I wrote about that in the book, and when I had to talk about it, speak my words for the audible version of the book. That was probably one of the more painful parts, seeing him there, the condition that he was in, and having to leave him there. And he was in bad shape. And so when he asked me to get married, he was at Rikers. And I knew at that time that he needed somebody to do time with him, which I was gonna do anyway. And you had to.
Why Jada and Tupac didn't speak during last year of his life. About not speaking to Tupac during the last year of his life due to a heated argument they had.
I just felt like he was off track a little bit, you know, and I spoke on that, and we got into a heated, probably one of the most heated arguments we've ever had. Pac and I getting into heated confrontations was not unusual, right? This happened to be a very heated one. And I didn't speak to him for a year. I was hurt, I was pissed. And I really kind of dug my heels in the ground. I was just like, he went too far and he's gonna have to calm me. Bone that. He's gonna have to calm me, and I'm standing my ground on it, you know? And I learned that don't waste time like that. You know, it's like a whole year out of my, you know, pride. You know what I'm saying? It's just pride, both of us, very prideful. Very prideful, just hard-headed, prideful, you know, because none of it mattered. The day that when Afeni called me, you know, when I found out he'd been shot again, I didn't give, like, and that whole conversation and whatever was going on with Suge and all that, it didn't matter. So why should it have mattered for a whole year?
Well, speaks on Jada and Tupac's relationship. One memoir that came out in 2021, he opened up about his raging jealousy over the close bond that Tupac shared with his future wife. Though they were never intimate, their love for each other is legendary. They defined ride or die. He wrote, in the beginning of our relationship, my mind was tortured by their connection. He was Pac and I was me. He triggered the perception of myself as a coward. I hated that I wasn't what he was in the world, and I suffered a raging jealousy. I wanted Jada to look at me like that. If she chose me over Tupac, there was no way I could be a coward. I was in a room with Tupac on multiple occasions, but I never spoke to him the way Jada loved Pac rendered me incapable of being friends with him. I was too immature. Jada Smith also discusses how she and Will Smith are not divorced, but have been separated since 2016.
So many surprising things in the book, but the thing that surprised me the most, that I actually had to reread it because I said, is this true? Was that in 2016, you and Will decided that you were going to live completely separate lives. It was not a divorce on paper, but it was a divorce. So from the year 2016, which is 7 years ago now, y'all have been apart.
Pinkett Smith has long celebrated her bond with Shakur on social media, leaving some fans concerned about her husband's feelings long before her separation with Smith became public. The Bad Boys star was candid on The Breakfast Club in 2020 when asked if he was jealous of Pinkett Smith's bond with Shakur.
Oh, fuck yeah.
I thought you
oh
say
my
no.
God, that dude. Let me, like, and you know, and that was in the early days. That was in the early days, and it was like, that was a big regret for me too, because I could never open up to interact with Pac.
He added,
you know, they grew up together, and you know, they loved each other, but they never had that. You know, they never had a sexual relationship. But they had come into that age where now that was a possibility, and then Jada was with me, you know, so, you know, Pac had a little thing on that, but she just loved him like he was the image of perfection.
That's all for this video. Please like, share, subscribe, and turn on the notification for more amazing content. Thanks for watching.